Good evening and welcome to Vsb News Online for Wednesday, March the 18th. I'm Charles Webb. Although the British media have been claiming that HSBC has been requiring certain UK residents to close their bank accounts in Jersey for tax avoidance reasons, it would appear from a statement provided by the Bermuda office of the Global Bank that there is more to it than that. Vsb News' Brian Darby has the story.
When Bermuda hears that its major bank is reportedly asking UK residents who do not have an address in Jersey to close their accounts, it is naturally the cause for concern that Bermuda may be next. But the explanation supplied by a spokesman in the Bermuda office of HSBC tells a different story than that appearing on BBC and in London business papers. It says, and I quote, "We have been reviewing the details we hold on our customers to ensure that we have information we need to protect them, together with wider society, against fraud and other financial crime. With financial crime becoming more sophisticated, keeping accurate, up-to-date information on customers, such as complete proof of identity or address, helps us monitor transactions effectively for potential fraudulent activity." End quote. Brian Darby reporting for Vsb News.
What started as a play has morphed into a protest as playwright Adele Butler takes issue with the Corporation of Hamilton's stance against the staging of religious presentations on City Hall property.
We are protesting the current policy of the corporation that states that no religious event should take place on its grounds. We find that to be very hypocritical because they appointed their very first chaplain, they have a Christmas tree here, and they've had a National Day of Prayer. I understand that they put the rules on the side from time to time, but I believe that those rules which predate Mayor Graham Otterbridge should be repealed.
So how does this fall under religion and what you're doing now?
Well, it falls under religion because I wrote a religious play, and we only asked to come and to serve the needy in the same way that Jesus served the needy. And so we wanted to come and have 3 or 4 short sermons, motivational sermons, and then give them some sandwiches and a couple of dollars as well.
So have you invited the mayor to participate?
No, we didn't invite the mayor to participate. We did send an invitation to every parliamentarian. I don't know if they're going to come. I do understand they're in the House. Be that as it may, rain, blow, or shine, we have decided to continue this protest, and we hope that the corporation will take that into consideration and repeal that outdated policy that it has. This really came out of what people felt about their own personal beliefs and about the script itself. I didn't really want to be here until they said, listen, what are we going to do given the impact that this play has had on our lives for the needy? And they came up with this idea.
The budget debate in the House is over, and the lower house has adjourned until May the 15th, leaving the Senate to go through much of the same procedure, but in a shorter space of time. Today, the senators began with a general debate on the economic situation, and members in charge, Senator Michael Fay, outlined the government's two-tiered strategy.
Despite all of the noise, despite the negativity that has been thrown our way by members of the opposition, we have fulfilled what we said that we would do, and that is to boost economic growth, instill confidence, as I've said, and cut costs. We have done that throughout. 7% last year, 3.5% this year, and we will continue to find costs. The other piece is this. Whilst we hit 3.5%, we'd like to make further reductions in our budget. But there are what we have called, you'll recall the phrase, known unknowns. And when we talk about people taking early retirement, for example, that's a program, but that's a known program, but we don't know how many people will take that option. So what are the savings that will result from that, as an example? We will continue, whilst we try and repeat that, to stave off any form of redundancy. I also made it clear that it was very disappointing that we were unable to secure an agreement for an extension of the furlough period. The government has made it very clear repeatedly that we've been very grateful that the civil service and unionized workers agreed to a furlough, but we're hoping for that extension to be able to further stave off any thought of redundancies. Again, make that clear, we'll do what we can to make sure that doesn't happen. But as the Minister of Finance said, that can't always be guaranteed. We have money to save, and we have to make those unpopular decisions. However, if our economic growth projections are successful and we have the type of investment that we believe is there in terms of the major projects that we talked about, then we'll be in a good place.
It was kind of, I suppose, disappointing, maybe ironic, that the PRP objected today again to the hotel concessions as something they want you to roll back, but it was their idea.
There's the phrase, 100% of nothing is nothing. And to encourage investment and development, you have to be able to say to those developers, we'll give you an opportunity to build at a lower cost. The point I made today in the Senate is this: having traveled now a little bit on government business to some of our neighbors in the South, the product we have on offer here is superior. Our hotels are better from what I've seen, and the price that we charge in terms of food and services is relatively similar to what's being charged in top hotels in other jurisdictions. The difference here in Bermuda is the cost to build and the cost to maintain staff in these premises is what is difficult for the hotel operators. And so we have to do everything we can to encourage them to make that inward investment up front with the intent, of course, that they make a profit. Business is about profit. And what can we do to encourage that construction and then maintain jobs in that industry? To me, I think we're on the way to success there.
Yeah. Its inaugural event last year attracted 2,500 participants, including some 83 cancer survivors. This year's organizers for the second Relay for Life are optimistic the number will increase. Ron Spencer III, founder and CEO event chair, says being in top physical shape is not necessarily a requirement.
Well, I know the first fear that's in the minds of the potential participants is that it's a 24-hour relay event. This is not an athletic event. This is an event to bring awareness to cancer. It's a 24-hour event, but we're looking at teams of 12 to 15 people. So, you know, the goal is to have at least one team member at a time on the track at all times. So they share the time throughout the night. As far as being prepared, you don't need to be physically fit to participate. We're going to have children from ages 5 and up. We're going to have grannies involved. You're going to see people in wheelchairs. You are going to see physically fit individuals participating. Some people try to run the track for 12 hours, but it's a gathering. You're going for a nice walk around the track for a certain period of time.
Now, you had quite a good response last year. What do you anticipate this year?
I hope to see twice the amount of people out there. Last year was phenomenal. We had over 124 teams participate. We had up to 2,500 people show up. The beauty of the event is it's open to the public. We want people to come and participate and cheer on their teams and their family members. You know, we have some amazing sponsors that have helped us, and the volunteers and team members help us bring a fair-like atmosphere to this track behind me for 24 hours.
Now, you brought this to Bermuda. What was it that caused you to choose Bermuda as a venue for this?
Well, you know, living here in Bermuda with my family, I lost my mother to cancer in 2008, and it was the first time that cancer touched me. So I started donating my time to Bermuda Cancer and Health. And, you know, every year there's a few events throughout the year that Bermuda Cancer and Health put on, breast cancer events. And I thought there could be an event for the entire family to participate, something to help people, you know, celebrate the lives of the people that are fighting cancer and remembering the people that were lost to cancer. And Relay for Life has been around since the 80s. And I knew I had to bring it to Bermuda. I knew that, you know, Bermuda's a community. It's a little different than having an event in Australia where they have to have 15 of them a year. You know, I knew that we would hopefully be able to bring the community together, and it did.
After years of confusion and ministerial indecision, Home Affairs Minister Senator Michael Fay has managed to introduce a written policy on how the partners of work permit holders, Bermudians, and PRCs are to be treated. He explained it to the Senate this morning.
What we were doing is clarifying and putting it basically in writing what's been happening through the Department of Immigration for a long time, where it was an ad hoc policy prior to our administration even, where what we were trying to do is now put in place the guidelines. So if someone is bringing their partner to Bermuda, say as a work permit holder, that partner would have the opportunity to reside and seek employment. If they find a job, they need a work permit. That's absolutely fine. That's what's existed for some time. What is important here is that that partnership, we're putting guidelines on what does that actually mean. And what we put in place are guidelines that that relationship has to be genuine and subsisting. And there's a number of guidelines that need to be followed, and people have to produce an affidavit to say that they are partners. That policy also extends to Bermudians and PRC holders. So if a Bermudian brings a partner in, then they too will have to provide evidence that they are in a genuine and subsisting relationship, and that individual will be able to reside and seek employment. That is the nature of what has been going on for some time, but it's important to put these things in writing so everyone understands what the policies are up front. And that's what we've been trying to achieve over the last couple of years, is getting things in writing so we all know where we're coming from and being transparent.
There are so many anecdotal stories about ministers who had one decision one way and one decision another. It must be very heartbreaking.
I think it is for a number of people. And it's not just obviously good for me as the Minister responsible for Home Affairs, but any other minister going forward. These are the guidelines that should be followed, and the public knows what to face. They know what is required of them when they make applications, and it's transparent, and that's what we're trying to achieve.
Appearing at her first budget debate, new government Senator Georgia Marshall gave a spirited performance in support of her government's policy while rejecting the opposition's criticism that short-term stimulus never works.
In the speech of my colleague, Mrs. Ming, she talked about short-term fixes and short-term stimuluses are not enough. Well, I challenge the opposition, because tell that to somebody who's unemployed, that a short-term fix is not enough. It is my view that we have to do both short-term and long-term planning. The first order of business has to be to put in place strategies that are going to get our people back in the job force. As I see it, the only way to do that is to rely on the fundamentals that we have always relied on, which is tourism and construction. Those are the industries that can absorb that number of people in a relatively quick way. And we see that as a government, we have projects that are breaking ground now, that are going to come into full force in the next 1, 2, 3 years. Those jobs, including hotel development, including the America's Cup, including the revitalization and rebuilding of our airport, is not going to only add stimulus, real stimulus dollars. And I'm not talking about moving the chips around the board. I'm talking about foreign investment that's going to come into this country to create wealth in this country. It is that type of stimulus that is going to soak up our unemployed, and we have to do that as a matter of priority.
And now it's time for the VSB Sports Report with Earl Baisden.
America's Cup boat heading to Bermuda still under arrest. This after a federal judge in San Francisco yesterday has ordered attorneys for America's Cup champion Orco Team USA and Joe Spooner to meet during the next 2 weeks to discuss a settlement of the fired sailors' lawsuit. Spooner, a grinder from New Zealand, was fired in January after he asked for a raise to help cover the cost of relocating to Bermuda, where Orco has chosen to defend the America's Cup in 2017. On March 9th, Marshall seized Orco's souped-up 45-foot catamaran in response to Spooner's lawsuit. He is seeking at least $725,000. The disassembled boat is in 3 shipping containers at Pier 80. Orco is in the process of moving its operation to Bermuda. Chief Magistrate Joseph Cepero told the sides on Tuesday to come back in 2 weeks with a method of settlement. Sophomore Dage Miners finished 6th in the final of the 800-meter run to earn All-American honors for Franklin Pierre's men's track and field team on the second day of the NCAA Indoor Track and Field Championships. Miners, who had won his heat in the preliminaries, took to the track in the 800-meter finals. He threw down a time of 1:52.02 to finish 6th out of 8 runners and become the first Franklin Pierce University track and field indoor athlete to earn All-American first-team honors. Meanwhile, the Bermuda School Sports Federation yesterday held the East and East Central Primary School Zone Sports preliminaries at the National Sports Center. In the East preliminaries, Kanaya Brown, represented East End Primary, won the under-9 girls 100-meter dash, clocking a time of 16:21. Jadal Smith from St. George's Pratt finished second with a time of 16:45, and Francis Patton student Nazara Pugson finished in third, crossing the line in a time of 16:91. In the under-9 boys 200-meter dash, Kaya Trott from Francis Patton finished first with a time of 33:61. Jaden Robinson, representing St. George's Pratt, finished second, clocking 33:95, and a Miss Lightbourne from Harrington Sound finished third in a time of 34:66. In the East Central preliminaries, Northlands Primary finished 1 and 2 in the under-9 girls 200-meter dash. Dunshay De Silva was first with a time of 34:22. Mattia Richardson finished second in a time of 34:34. Shayna Furbett from Elliott Primary finished third, clocking 34:61. Mackay Ritter, representing Summersfield Academy, won the under-10 boys 400-meter dash, recording a time of 1:15:47. Elliott Primary student Amir Dill finished second in a time of 1:17:35, and Northland student Dean Lightbourne finished third with a time of 1:18:50. On day one of the Speedo Sectional Championships in Florida, Lisa Blackburn advanced to the women's 100 long course meter breaststroke A final. Blackburn, during the preliminaries, clocked the sixth fastest qualifying time of 1:14:54. In the final, Blackburn went even faster, clocking a time of 1:13:57 on her way to finishing fourth. Turning to tennis, Bermuda's boys rebounded from their day one 2-1 loss to Jamaica, competing in the ITF Boys 14 World Junior Tennis 2015 North, Central American and Caribbean pre-qualifying Group B tournament going on in the Dominican Republic with a 2-0 win over Nicaragua. Ben Lyons needed 3 sets to defeat his opponent 6-3, love 6, 6-love. Ricky Mallory defeated his opponent in straight sets 7-5, 6-4. The Bermuda girls began taking part in the ITF Girls 14 Junior Tennis Tournament. Also in the North American and Central Caribbean pre-qualifying tournament, they're playing in Group C. The girls defeated Curacao 2-1. Imani Phillips began with a straight sets victory over her opponent 6-2, 6-4. Bermuda would go ahead 2-0 when Kayla Ming defeated her opponent in a 3-setter 4-6, 6-1, 6-3. Phillips and Lauren Way went down in the doubles 6-2, 6-3. Round 3 of the 2015 Digicel Bermuda National Squash Championships took place inside the Bermuda Squash Rackets Association Club with matches in 5 divisions. In the men's veteran first round action, Anthony White defeated Gary Levon 11-2, 11-7, 11-5. Tony Muldoon defeated Philip Barnes 12-10, 13-11, 6-11, 5-11, 11-4. 2 marathon matches took place in the men's open plate division, where Tony Muldoon defeated Malcolm Woodley 8-11, 10-12, 11-4, 11-7, 11-6, and Laird Simmons defeated Phil Barnes 11-9, 11-6, 12-14, 5-11, 11-5. In the ladies' classic open plate division, it saw Susanna Armano defeat Jackie Pynchon 11-8, 11-9, 9-11, 11-7, while Suzanne won the Battle of the Roses when she defeated Madeline Rose 7-11, 11-8, 11-4, 11-8. In English Championship football action last evening, Norwich substitute Jamal Lotza struck a last-gasp equalizer to cancel out Huddersfield striker James Vaughan's stoppage-time goal and snatch a 2-2 draw at John Smith Stadium. The biggest news for Bermuda was that Nikki Wells was not in the lineup for Huddersfield yet again. As Wells has not played in a month and Bermuda played their first World Cup qualifier in 7 days is a concern. Meanwhile, Reggie Lamb and his Mansfield Town teammates came away with a 2-1 victory last evening over AFC Wimbledon. I'm Earl Baisden reporting for VSB Sports.
And now we go to the weather. Thursday, March the 19th. Sunny periods, winds northwesterly, moderate, varying northerly light to moderate overnight. High near 63, low near 58. Thanks for watching VSB News Online for Wednesday, March the 18th. I'm Charles Webb.